Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating mysteries of ancient Europe, the Druids. For centuries, they've been portrayed as wise sages, forest priests, magicians, and even rebels against the Roman Empire. But who were they really? Why did they hold such extraordinary power? And why did they disappear so suddenly from history? This is a story of knowledge, nature, and silence, because the Druids left behind no written words of their own. Everything we know about them comes from legends, archaeology, and the eyes of outsiders, and that mystery is part of what makes their world so compelling even today. Imagine ancient Europe thousands of years ago, dense forests stretching endlessly, mist rising from rivers, the sound of wind brushing through oak leaves. This was the world of the Celts, a society rich in art, music, spirituality, and tradition. At the heart of it stood a group of people unlike any other, the Druids. They were the thinkers, the teachers, the healers, and the spiritual leaders. They trained for years, sometimes decades, before earning the title of Druid. To the Celts, the natural world was sacred. Mountains weren't just rocks. Rivers weren't just water. Trees weren't just trees. Everything had a spirit, and everything was connected. The Druids acted as the bridge between the people and the forces of nature. They taught that wisdom wasn't found in stone temples or royal palaces. It lived in the forests, the stars, and the cycles of the seasons. But what made the Druids especially intriguing is that they kept all their knowledge in spoken form. Nothing was written down. Their teachings, stories, laws, and philosophies were all memorized and passed from teacher to student. Some Roman writers claimed Druid students took 20 years to complete their education. Whether that was true or exaggerated, it shows the immense respect and fear they inspired. Let's step into their world for a moment. Picture a sacred oak grove at dawn. Sunlight filters through the leaves as Druids gather around a stone altar. They're not casting spells or performing magic the way movies show, but their rituals were deeply symbolic. The oak tree, strong and long, lived, represented endurance and wisdom. Mistletoe, carefully cut with a golden sickle, symbolized healing and protection. Every action had meaning. Every gesture connected the people to the rhythms of nature. But Druids weren't just spiritual figures, they were also judges. Leaders sought their advice to settle disputes. Warriors came to them for blessings before battle. Farmers asked them for the best times to plant crops. And kings, even the most powerful kings, never made major decisions without consulting them. This made the Druids one of the most influential groups in ancient Europe. One of the most surprising parts of their story is how advanced their understanding of the world was. Roman authors wrote that Druids studied astronomy, the movement of the stars, the measurement of time, and even the nature of the universe. They observed solstices, predicted seasons, and used their knowledge to guide their communities. Some even believe that the placement of ancient monuments like Stonehenge reflects Druidic astronomical knowledge, though historians debate the connection. What we do know is this: the Druids believed in the immortality of the soul. They taught that death wasn't the end. It was simply a transition to another form of existence. This belief gave Celtic warriors incredible courage. To them, bravery wasn't just honor, it was destiny. But as powerful as the Druids were, their world faced a massive threat: the expansion of the Roman Empire. By the time Julius Caesar arrived in Gaul, the region that is now France, he encountered the Celts and their mysterious teachers. Caesar described the Druids with a mix of admiration and suspicion. He respected their intelligence, their influence, and their courage. But he also saw them as an obstacle because their power united the Celtic tribes. United people were harder to conquer, and so slowly pressure built. Roman armies expanded, their culture spread, their politics tightened, and over time, Druidic practices were restricted, then discouraged, and eventually outlawed. In some areas, the Romans replaced Celtic traditions with their own. In others, they absorbed them, and in a few isolated regions, the Druids quietly continued their work in secret. Their disappearance wasn't sudden. It was gradual, like a fire that slowly burns out over generations. By the 2nd century AD, the classical Druids had faded from recorded history, but they didn't disappear in spirit. Their legacy survived in folklore, myth, and even medieval storytelling. Many scholars believe that the legends of wizards like Merlin were inspired by ancient Druidic traditions, wise figures who guided kings, understood nature, and lived between worlds. But here's the twist: modern historians now believe that everything we thought we knew about Druids might only be a fraction of the truth. because everything we have about them came from outsiders, Romans, Christians, and centuries later storytellers. There's so much that remains unknown. Some scholars suggest Druids may have been far more diverse than we think. Some might have been scholars, others healers, others advisors. Their roles may have changed depending on the region. The word Druid might even have represented a whole class of learned people, not just priests. And here's where it gets even more interesting. In recent decades, archaeologists have uncovered new clues: ritual sites hidden in forests, ancient Celtic artifacts, tools for astronomy, and sacred spaces used for ceremonies. These findings suggest that the Druids had a deep understanding of the environment and a sophisticated spiritual system that blended science, nature, and philosophy. One fascinating discovery is evidence that many Celtic societies practiced a kind of environmental stewardship. They carefully managed forests, studied animal behavior, and aligned their activities with natural cycles. While the modern world debates climate change and conservation, the Druids had been thinking about balance thousands of years earlier. They believed that humans weren't rulers of the earth, they were part of it. Even today, across parts of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and Brittany, echoes of the Druids linger. You can feel it in ancient stone circles, in festivals tied to the changing seasons, and in old legends passed down through generations. The Celts believed the boundary between this world and the next grew thin during certain times of the year, especially during Samhain, the festival that later evolved into Halloween. The idea that the living and the dead walked closer together on that night. That comes straight from ancient Celtic belief. So what can we take away from the Druids today? Maybe it's the idea that wisdom isn't about knowing everything, it's about understanding your place in the larger story of the world. Maybe it's that true power doesn't always come from armies, wealth, or political authority. Sometimes it comes from silence, observation, and a deep connection to the world around you. And maybe the Druids remind us that there's value in mystery. Not everything needs to be written down. Not every truth needs to be explained. Think about it. In a world where everything is online, where every moment is captured, shared, and stored forever, the Druids lived by a completely different idea. Knowledge is sacred. Some things only grow stronger when passed from person to person, mind to mind, heart to heart. Maybe we've lost a bit of that. Maybe rediscovering that idea is part of why their story still captivates us today. As we close this journey into the world of the Druids, imagine those misty European forests again. Imagine wise figures in white robes walking through tall oaks, studying the stars, seeking harmony with nature, and protecting the balance of their communities. Imagine the quiet strength they carried, a strength built not on force, but on understanding. Their world may have vanished, but their mystery lives on, and perhaps that's exactly how they intended it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient history and the forgotten mysteries of our world, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next story. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and as always, keep exploring the past to understand the world we live in today.